recently divorced. But when it first happened, the first thing I did in my home was create a space in my home. I changed some things in my home. I I turned my living room into a skating rink. I turned my dining room into a gym. And I redid my bathroom because I take really luxurious baths. And so those are the spaces in my home that when I come into my home, I wanted my home to invite, I wanted to create a space that my life can thrive, that it will rise up to meet me where I was so that I can live the life that I wanted to live. And so I get completely how you got to have the environment in order for you to heal and to thrive. And that's what this room does.
Yes, creates that environment.
Yeah.
And like you said, at 4%, we call that hospice, right? That's where they tell you that,
Mm.
it's a matter of months or days, right? But we really want to work to be preventative, like you said. And there's so many things we can do to create the space, to create the environment. And this is one modality that we offer. Is just really understanding where technology is gone. I don't know, Tesla. There was a gentleman who we know was killed for his some of his beliefs of how energy can help, with so many things, right? And when you talk about healing the body, they don't want that. They want to give you chemo, radiation, and what traditionally they give you in hospice care. But there's a lot
Um,
of technology that's out there that's not new. This is not new. It's new to
it's
our
not.
community,
It's new to
right?
us.
It's new to our
Right.
community, but
Yeah.
this has been out there. In fact, the woman who worked on these machines started in the 70s.
Mm.
Okay. So that just
Interesting.
shows you how far behind we can be when it comes to certain things that could really help us. Because when I started studying this, I studied it and I started witnessing the testimonials. A woman with an 8 centimeter tumor on her uterus, dogs that had tumors on their neck, and dogs have no placebo effect. And so, in this environment, when it created the space for them to heal, we started seeing an army sergeant, third-degree burns all over his body,
Hmm.
8 days in the environment, gone.
Wow.
Got up and walked out of there, right? And so we started traveling to Michigan, Ohio, paying $50 an hour just to be in the space. And
Mm.
so we said, how can our community afford this? Because you need hours and hours of this. And that's when we wanted to really bring this to the heart of Bronzeville. We
I
said,
love
let's
it.
bring the energy here because it's not just in this environment. Yeah, we get what we call the photon scales. So the light that you see, similar to the rainbow, each light represents something. The yellow represents our digestive system, right? That's the
Mm.
healing that happens in our gut. That's where our immune system is. So every color is there for something. So that's exciting, but there's scalar energy. And that's the torsion effect that Tesla talked about. When you can put things at a perfect alignment and allow it to meet in the middle, it creates something powerful. And so just imagine quantum healing, where the energy is or anywhere and everywhere. Because when light combines, when the waves hit, it goes out for actually miles,
Wow.
miles. Yeah.
So this is so interesting because this season, this
Mm-hmm.
is the fourth season of my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I've done 3 seasons. I did it alone because I needed to get. I wasn't a podcaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a whole new life for me. And what this life is something I wrote a book a few years ago called "Create Your Great." Hashtag You don't get what you want, you get what you create. And it was an assignment from the Most High. And when I wrote the book, I knew that it had the potential to be powerful. It made a lot of sense, but I had never created my great before. I've been self-employed all my adult life. But this was something because I told God a few years ago, I said, if you take my son, I was fearful for his life. I said, if you take him, I'll give him to you. Like I asked him two things. Don't give me any jail time because young black boys, I mean, you see what's happening with Miss Basie, all the things that's happening. And I didn't want anything to come upon my son. So I said, listen, if you take him, I'll do whatever you want me to do. A few years later, I had this desire, like this strong urge to write this book. And in the book, I said that if you align, I didn't even use the word align because I didn't have that language at the moment. I said, if you intentionally develop each part of your being, because this is who we are. Nothing outside of us determines our greatness, our money, our cars. None of that stuff determines our greatness. But if we align our beings so that we are vibrating on a higher level, on a frequency that we can heal ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually, then your greatness is inevitable. I believe it to be true. It wasn't my idea, but I wrote the book. And when I wrote the book, I ended up like the following year, my husband had moved out, and I wrote the book in 2019. And in 2020, when my husband moved out, I literally couldn't get out of bed for a couple of days. But I had real strong morning routines. Like I would get up in the morning and drink water. I had already created a space. I would go sit down there and I read. And so I went through the motions, but I would show up after drinking my water and I say, like, God, I'm here. Can it account for any? Can it account for something? And so when I would show up every single day, um, then one day I told my son, I said, I'm gonna see if this works, because the only thing I would do, I had to get out of bed in the morning to drink my water, right? And then once you drink your water, your body start working, right? So I just showed up in that space, but I would go back to bed. One day I told my son, I said, son, I'm gonna see if this works. He said, what's that? I said, what I wrote, because I wrote the book as an assignment. This means that God was speaking to me. It was inspired. It was an inspiration, right? And obedience. So the book that I wrote the year before is the book that I used to save my life, right? It felt like when God told Noah to build the ark, and then the ark saved his life. Like he had never done this before. He didn't even know what an ark was, right? But I didn't understand the power of this book. But I used the book to align, because what I've learned since then is that it is alignment. When you intentionally take care of each part of your being, like it aligns with one another. When you develop your spirit, like your spirit is your connection with God. When you develop your mind, you develop your body. Because most of us have been in a situation where we know we shouldn't do something, but we do it anyway. But when you're taking care of all three parts, they align, they coincide with each other. They talk to each other, and you really begin to magnetize differently, to heal yourself, to listen to yourself, to position yourself. You elevate and you really magnetize. I feel like we magnetize each other. I really, really do. I want to talk a little bit more about this DNA thing, because I know that the work that I do is on a spiritual level. What I do is I start with water, because we're physical, mental, and spiritual beings, right? So you start with water, you drink the water, because we are water. Regardless of what we look like, we are water, 80% water, and that decreases over time. And then we're mental. So you sit on this meditation pillow. It says seek ye first. That's a mental thing, because we've heard the scripture, seek ye first the kingdom of God. But the pillow is filled with organic buckwheat hulls, so it aligns your spine, it grounds you to the earth. There's alignment there. Then you read a scripture, that's aligning your mind. You write down what you're grateful for, that's aligning your spirit. And when you do that, it's like you put yourself in a position to heal yourself. It's like you're going back to the place where we were in the beginning, in the garden. Like maybe not physically, but again, when I say that, I am not exaggerating. When I say that I feel like I'm at my prime, I feel like my life just started, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because even when I was at my prime physically, I wasn't mentally. When I was younger, I wasn't spiritually. So now this to me is kind of prime. Talk to me about the DNA level, because I talk about it on a spiritual level. This is the Scales of Life podcast, and we're talking about aligning body, mind, and spirit. If you align your being, I said at the beginning of the episode, if you align your being, your life will scale. I talk about a spiritual. What about on a DNA, on a natural level, can you do in order to align yourself or get to where you're supposed to be?
Well, and I think you're right on point, because at the end of the day, when we affirm and we're in tune with the spiritual side and we're affirming positive things,
Mm-hmm.
that's feeding our DNA, that's feeding our cells. And I think you hear spontaneous healing. I prayed about it and it was gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of our healing starts with what we believe, the
Mm.
power of the mind, right? But on a DNA level, we have something called telomeres.
Okay.
Telomeres are in our body. We have a load of them. I don't want to say trillions, but there's a lot of them, because at every cell there's, I guess you can say we have trillions, so trillions of telomeres, because they're at the end cap of every single cell. And
Okay.
so one of the things, again, when it comes to longevity, when it comes to nutrition and food, there's a lot of stuff out there. And again, sometimes it can be mind blowing. You start talking about quantum, you're like, what
Mm-hmm.
is quantum? Like
Right.
it's
Right. Right.
everywhere and anywhere, so it just gets too deep. And so just imagine that at every single cell that you have in your body, the end caps of them, these telomeres, start to
Mm-hmm.
shrink. They start to fray. And as they fray and get smaller and smaller, they can actually start to say, we know within a relative degree of, this person is not doing well, right? That's why you hear some families, it seems like, wow, there's something going on, the family curse, right? They can't make it past 60. And then you see these families with all this longevity, and it may not be the ones that are Christian. So it's not about, hey, people say all the time, well, I'm going to die when God says. I said, but God gives us free will. We're able to make choices every day.
Absolutely.
Faith
Every day.
without works is dead,
It
okay?
is.
And so what the science behind there proves is that when you're in the environment, the DNA and some of the things that we
Mm.
thought, this was genetic, So imagine strands of the DNA
It's just the
actually being
environment.
repaired and fixed, and your telomeres actually lengthening. In fact, the inventor of the technology, I mean, she was well into her golden years, and her hair would not stop growing. It was way past her buttocks, right? Strong and long. And she says, because when you're in this environment where there's your fingernails, so for the women that just want it for the vanity part,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hair starts to grow, nails starts to grow, and that's kind of the way, and that kind of reminds you, for those who might not relate it to inside, because we can only talk about what we see, but we don't know the kidneys and the liver. So just imagine those cells, right? Your strands of DNA, and even the coding of this. If you look at it hard enough, it's DNA strands. Do you understand? You see that?
Yes.
That's how
Wow.
DNA operates. Yeah.
So in this room,
Mm-hmm.
it says the ultimate to cultivate a global to cultivate a global blue zone. I've been looking into blue zone areas because I'm about to leave these United States real soon. So, I mean, there are blue zones here in the United States, correct? But this is
There's
kind
only
of
one here, and it's not even really a city or state, even though it's Loma Linda, California. It's a Seventh Day Adventist. It's really a religion because
okay.
they've spent their life. Elaine White, who's and when I wrote my book Proverbs Diet, I got invited in by the Seventh Day Adventist. I'm not Seventh Day Adventist, but I was invited in by them because one of the big leaders read my book on a plane. He said, I've never finished a book from beginning to end on an airplane, but their practices is very much about healthy eating, community, being together. A lot of times we isolate our elders in America,
Mm,
but it's really,
everybody, we
mhm,
isolate everyone. At
yeah,
18, we kick our kids out the
yeah,
house.
yeah. So community, that all is a part of their concept. And as a result of it, they've created their own blue zone as a religion where they're the longest living religion in the world. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. It just goes to show, like, it is the environment. Like, sometimes we can be in places, you said hereditary. If we just get away, because I'm a Bible reader, I was reading something not too long ago. God told Abraham to get out from among your family and go to a land that I've called you to, because their mindset, who they were, like that environment would have kept him, because when we're around some people, sometimes we can't move forward, we can't be the greatest, we can't be who we were called to be, because they knew us when we were kids, and then we got a battle with these people about how our life is changing, and they're like, who you think you are, like, what are you doing now? It's always something with you. I'm certain your eyes just rolled up
Yeah.
your head. I'm certain you get that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm certain you get that all the time, because you are not just beautiful like the people see you. Spotify, they can't see you, but she is beautiful. If you want to see it, go to YouTube, check her out. But not just beautiful, like physically, like intellectually, like your thought process. One of the first questions this lady asked me, one of the first questions she asked me when I came to the spot, she was like, "What's your blood type?" Like, who asked that? Unless you're somebody who's interested in really knowing who are you, and do you know about yourself? And if you don't, let's get you tested. And how can I help you based on what your blood type is? What is the reason for knowing? Because I didn't know my blood type for a long time. I'm O positive. I didn't know that for. I wanted to be B positive because like, I don't know. I didn't know about blood because I just want to be positive all the time. but but most of us don't even know. The only reason I knew my blood type is because I was getting a little bit older, and I had some family members, had some situations happen, and we didn't know, if we could donate, if we could help them in any way. So I said, next time I go to the doctor, I'm gonna just ask him to do my blood type. So it's not like I'm really educated on it. Like, could you tell me the importance of knowing what your blood type is? Again, y'all, we're aligning. We are balancing our being so that we can scale our lives. And these are things that we need to know: body, mind, and spirit. What is the purpose and the importance of knowing what your blood type is?
Oh yeah, I mean, here's the crazy part about your doctor not telling you, and everyone in America not knowing their blood type, is if you received blood from a blood type A, it would cause your blood to clot and it would kill you. Literally, it could kill you in a matter of minutes. Okay, that's how serious it is when it comes to blood. So our blood does something called a glutamate, which means there's little speckles that happen every time a foreign object hits it that shouldn't hit it. So they already know that if they're doing a blood transfusion or any of that, it's critical that they know your blood type. Now, here's the crazy part about it. food designed by our creator has what they call lectins. These same lectins in the food causes your blood to agglutinate, which means some food is attacking you. And you don't even know it. You look at it like an allergy or something's wrong. And even to further prove that, when COVID happened, our community, of course, we were ravaged by it. But guess what? They knew certain blood types were more susceptible. But they weren't saying go out and get your blood type so you'll know where you're at on the scale. But a lot of the blood type A Bs, a lot of the blood type Bs and As were more vulnerable. It doesn't mean that that's an inferior blood type. We believe God, like, we're all equal.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we just didn't know as a blood type A, because I'm a blood type A. In
Okay.
Japan, they're majority A. They live healthy. They're a blue zone. So what is it about my blood type A that's been killing me my whole
Mm.
life? Okay. I didn't know my blood type. My mom's a blood type O. My son's a blood type O. How the heck am I a blood type A?
Okay.
My grandma is a O. My Shiro. I'm like, what? My grandfather's a B. It's like, where did this A come from?
Okay.
Well, guess what? The father that I never met, not the one that raised me, right? But the father that I learned that was my father after age 30, but never met him. But when I did the science behind it, I said, wow, he died before I ever had a chance to meet him. Died of a lot of the diseases that A's get. He had heart disease, cancer, dementia. So he had all the diseases. So I'm sure he was eating the standard American diet. But the reality is he had to be either an A or an AB. That's the only way my mom, who was an O, could have had me as a child.
Right.
So again, your blood type is critical. At 19, almost died. 50% chance of living or dying. Showed up at the emergency room with my grandparents, and they did what they call an exploratory surgery, where they open you up just to see what's going on. And I had spent my life eating the same diet: pork chops, pork ribs, barbecue, all of that. And my mom, my family, they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm the one that was always seemed something was wrong.
Yeah.
Hypochondriac, they called me, because they just didn't know. The blood type means this. As an A, my stomach acids, by nature, by God's design, are just lower. Why? Because we're the agrarians. We're the ones that's supposed to be planting the vegetables and the fruit and the grains. So we're
Okay.
agrarians. So our stomach acids actually evolved to be lower than the O's, because O stands for old. You're the original blood, okay? And
Hmm.
so when we think about it, it really started with the Great Flood. Because if you think about the Great Flood, when the animals were intelligent enough to recognize something was coming,
Yeah.
so what did they do? They
Here
went
for
to
the
the
ark.
hills, right? They
Right.
and then they were protected. But guess what got destroyed? The plants. So imagine you're now in a society where now the plants are the minority, and there's animals. And so again, at some point, God, animals were clean. You can eat the animals, and so we started eating the animals, but it was the O bloods. At the time, there was no A bloods,
Okay.
right? But as society got bigger, O's, you guys are the warriors. I always say my O's typically are the ones with the road rage. We're the peacemakers by
Okay.
design.
Okay.
We're built to make everybody peaceful, and it was crazy because I'd always been the peacemaker. I'm like, what the heck? A lot of this is so true.
You know what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me that you just said that a lot of people in China
Mm-hmm.
have your blood type.
Japan, yeah.
Japan
Mm-hmm.
have a blood type,
Mm-hmm.
but we know them to have longer health spans, right? Then,
And they have O's too. So they're about, probably about, I think they said it's like about 51% A. O's probably about 30, 40, and then
but
B's.
the fact that you have that same blood type and that you were sickly all the time, it gets back to the environment. It's really important. An environment, I want to talk about that environment, and we're not going to do this too much longer because I think that we've given them a wealth of information. No, but really, the environment is really key. I'm gonna talk about the environment, and I'm gonna talk about this room in this space. Um, Environment is so important. On the Scales of Life podcast, we talk about balancing your being. A lot of times, it's hard to, if you are trying to balance your being, you're taking care of your body differently. You decide to become a little bit more spiritual. Just not even decide to become spiritual. You just want to create a space for your spirit. Once you create a space for your spirit is your connection with your creator. Your life will change. It'll start to change without you even really recognizing it. And then if you talk about taking care of your mental, like um, personal development is kind of frowned upon because if you personally develop yourself, your mind starts to shift a little bit. Your mind starts to shift. Now you're going against the status quo, the people, the environment that you're in they start to look at you a little bit differently. And so, in order to keep things comfortable and safe, then we kind of push it off a little bit. Because here's my truth. Um, I I come from uh, my mother was an alcoholic. My father was a heroin addict, and I am predisposed to addiction, right? And I would call it like just being compulsive. Like I couldn't eat 3 cookies; I'd have to eat the whole pack, right? I couldn't eat a bag of popcorn or like a little bit. I got to eat the whole bag, and so in this season, I have I given up marijuana. Most of the people know that this is my podcast. They know me. You know what I'm saying? And I just started a few years ago, but then it became a thing that I did because I'm predisposed to addiction on a DNA level, and so I stopped smoking marijuana for a season because I don't want anything that's gonna hinder me from walking into what God want me to walk into. The truth is, God told me He'd have a problem with it. He had a problem when I made it a problem, and so get control of that addiction, and I'm gonna call it what it was. and and so I would supplement. So from time to time I drink wine. So on this podcast, um and we're not gonna get to altar call. I want you to think about it because at the end of each episode I do what's called an altar call. And the altar is a place of, we think that we got to go to church for certain things, but we don't, because the Creator lives inside of us. And and I create a space where I can give things back to God. I can yield. I can get the restoration that I need. And that's the altar. So at the end of each episode, we do what's called an altar call. So the altar call, I want you to think about what you want to give up, what you want to release. Because we all, in order to transform, we constantly got to be picking up new things and giving up certain things. Is there anything else that you want to talk about specifically? No, before I go, I got to get out of it. Before this room, it is called an energy enhancements. It's the energy EEC room, energy enhancement center. We talked about what it did. It is at 405 East 35th Street in Chicago. Could you not just, you talked about the room, you talked about the DNA level. What is it that you do in this space?
Yeah, well, it's soul massage. Like you said, you felt as if your soul was
I
massaged.
did.
Your DNA is definitely being massaged and improved, but we wanted to take it to another level. And so we also offer infrared sauna. We understand the power of sweating. A lot of times, as Black women, we're guilty of trying not to sweat the hair out and those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's killing us. It's ended up in breast
Mm.
tumors. It's ended up with the lymphatic system that's clogged, fibroids. Right? We've got to sweat, sweat, sweat. And so, in the infrared sauna, your body's going to sweat out 7 times more toxic waste than
Mm.
regular sweat. It's proven to go 1.5 inches into the skin to help break up tumors, helps with circulation.
Mm.
Also, to people that regularly do infrared sauna, there's a proof and there's some science behind the fact that they improve their life expectancy
Y'all hear this?
by as much as 30 to 40%.
Wow.
Okay, 30, 40%. It's pretty awesome. So that's a part of our curated experience.
Okay.
We also bring in sound, frequency music, sometimes frequency performers. We do listening parties where you can come out and rock out to some music that's going to definitely feed your soul in a positive way.
Yeah.
You will leave feeling so affirmed and wondering, why am I so happy, right? And
It's
in it,
real.
and this also increases serotonin. So in this environment, the happy hormone that sometimes we just can't find increases here, which is why sometimes people that are depressed long enough in this environment, for that moment they stop feeling depressed, and over time it helps to build them back up. We also do body work. We have body work doctors,
Mm-hmm.
napropaths. So napropath is a body a doctor of the body. They understand how trauma gets trapped
Mm.
in our tissues. A lot of times we have a pain and we don't know that it's a childhood trauma that we
Mm.
need to release. And so before some of them work on you, they will actually ask your body, what does it need? And sometimes they will reveal stuff to you that no one would have known, but they know just based on the body work that they do. We have Reiki specialists who also provide an energy type of massage. And we do the deep tissue, the Swedish. We do the foot massages. We do the scalp.
I know.
The scalp massage is a whole nother level. A lot of times as women, we're in our weaves and braids. Um, you know, it's crazy because our scalp doesn't get touched. I can remember, I don't have a weave now, but when I wore a weave, my hair was longer than the weave. So again, it was just messed up
It's the
thoughts, right?
mental. Yeah, it's this
Because why
projected.
would I wear one if it was longer? Again, I didn't like my own hair, right? And so,
Wow.
but we have to learn to love all of us because this is what makes us uniquely who we are. But think about it: if you have braids all the time or something that's restricting somebody from touching your scalp, and we go on dates and somebody tries to, and it's like, no, you know what I mean? And this is where most of the feeling lies. There's so much stimulation in your scalp. I
I
mean,
know.
stimulation, right?
I love my hair massage.
Yes,
I kid you not. When I was about 13 years old, my sister 7 years younger than me, so she was about 6. We would lay in my bed and she would put me to sleep rubbing in my hair.
Yeah.
Like I would wake up, she'd be rubbing in my hair, and I would wake up and I'd have like 13 braids in my
Yes.
like all the netted braids because she done put me to sleep.
Right.
Really, it's a lot of stimulation
It's
in
a
your hair.
lot of
Yeah.
stimulation.
And you're right. We as black women, we're guilty. Like we don't want people to touch our hair because you know because we got that stuff because it's that
Whatever's in it that you don't want to mess up. You're
you
paying
don't
too
want
much
to
money.
you don't want to sweat out. You don't want
No.
to like and listen, in this space you
Mm-hmm.
literally get healed. The infrared sauna, that's a big
Yeah.
deal. It penetrates the skin, you
Yeah,
said.
1.5 inches. So you can do a sauna. A lot of people do saunas. You go to the gym, and that's good too because you're gonna sweat. But there's just a whole nother level when you're talking infrared, far red, near red. It's a whole nother level of science with a lot of studies medicinally for how to heal our body on a whole nother level beyond just sweating. Yeah, and then we have the foot detox baths, which are fun too. Coming soon are our hydro massage beds, where you're
Hmm.
gonna be able to lay on that for 15 minutes, whether you're dealing with sciatica, any type of issue that relates to pain, you're going to feel an immediate relief from that. So those, we're actually expanding this. So this is about to expand 4,000 square foot. So we're about to take it to a whole nother level. This is about to expand in a big way.
Wow. So listen, before it gets priced out, because they're very 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 reasonable here. I gotta do a commercial here for the Soul Massage and Spa in Chicago in the Bronzeville area. It's on 35th and King Drive, 405 East 35th Street. Y'all get over here because at the Scales of Life podcast, we are about aligning our being, taking care of our physical, our mental, and our spiritual being so that we can scale our lives. Do as much as you can do, and then come into the spaces in the environments and just sit. The first time I spent the night here, because there is room for overnight, they do have overnight stays. There is, there's a guy that comes here on a regular basis. He has a membership. He has diabetes,
He's in kidney
kidney,
failure,
and
so he's under dialysis. So he doesn't even have diabetes, and
right.
that's
He
the
has.
thing about it. We blow our kidneys out sometimes, not even knowing, and just some things we've helped him with. But the energy for sure has helped him to gain weight. He went walking with us on the beach yesterday. If you would have saw him, I mean, he's just in that short of time. Some stuff that's happened with his
He's
body. The
healing.
walking's coming back.
He's healing.
Yeah, he's
He's
42, but was walking like he was probably 80, maybe 90, right?
he's healing.
Yeah, but the body's healing.
The food that we eat is killing us. The environments that we're in, that sometimes we grew up in and feel like we can't get away with, is killing us. Like us not being able to create a space just for stillness, it is killing our spirits. Like this world is in a very dark place, and I'm gonna encourage you to do whatever you can to align your physical, your mental, and your spiritual being. Create a space, get in the environments. If you're in the Chicagoland area, if you're visiting the Chicagoland area, check out the Soul Massage and Spa, because this room does for you what I help you do by creating a space for 5 minutes. If you don't, because people think that it's hard, they think that it's daunting, that you can't sit with yourself 5 minutes. Come and sit in this room, be around people, be quiet, sit in this space, get the healing that you need. But until next time, I just want to thank Melissa. Melissa, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Like, like I won't even talk about how old you are. Like you are such a young woman, but I know we're almost like the same age. It's crazy, but you look amazing. Like
You look
you
amazing.
are priming. Like for real. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for allowing the Scales of Life podcast to come into your home, into your space, in order to share this message, these messages with the world, and continue to be great. Thank you so much. Do you have any closing words? Anything you want to say?
Well, I mean, you asked me what would I leave on the altar.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're gonna say
Should
that
I say it
at the
or
Scales of
no?
Life podcast, at the end of each episode, we do what's called an altar call. An altar is a place of restoration. It's a place of healing. It's a place of release. And so, since I have a guest, I want to ask my guest, what would you like to leave on the altar?
you know, um, can I talk about two things?
You can. You can leave as much as you want to on the altar.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to talk about two because one of them is more it's great, but I don't know that it's so. Um, I would say clutter. I'm one of those people, and I'm sure many people can relate. You come to my house, it always looks immaculate, but you have that closet you've been dealing with, right?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You're dealing with, and so I'm dealing with a situation with a couple things that closets that I tell people don't open, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So one thing I really am working on is just the aspect of organization. I'm a very creative person, so my mind tends to like to decorate design. But when it comes to the systematic process of keeping a system and a flow, I need like two assistants, girl. So
Okay.
that's
Okay.
one. And the other thing I want to say, and I think most of you will relate to this, is food we know is an addiction. You talked about how you traded the alcohol for food. And so I have a new book coming out
The
called
weed for alcohol.
Oh, the weed for alcohol. So it really, so it's the weed. Yeah, I got you. And there's some medicinal, but again,
It is,
again,
and
we
I'm gonna
we
get
got to
back
be
to it.
careful with
Yeah,
that
for
too.
sure.
But the other thing too, I have a book coming out called Chewicidal. Chewicidal. Chew. Instead of
Okay.
suicidal, chewicidal.
Suicidal. Okay.
Because
Okay.
what I find is,
Oh, that's good.
you see people and they'll be riddled with cancer, but they can't get up that those catfish nuggets. They can't give up that fried chicken from here. It just we can't give it up.
Talk about
And
it.
it's like we are digging our grave with our fork. In the Proverbs diet, when I wrote that in 2013, I talked about chewicide and I talked about what was going to happen by 2030 with diabetes being an epidemic, with fatty liver being an epidemic. So I wrote about this in 2013. Okay.
Okay.
And so for me, it's like just because you're a coach and you know better doesn't mean you always do better. So even though, yeah, 90, probably 5% of the time I choose to do the right thing, I know for me, food, like you said, it's that comfort from childhood. And so whether it's pastries, whether it's sugar, right? We can always strive to do better. And so for me, I know I'm in an episode in my life in which I'm on a 6 week summer body boot camp, drinking my water, right?
Starting
And
with
so
water.
I think for me, it's just a reminder, that accountability of really making better choices when it comes to leaving the sugar alone. Sugar is 7 times more addictive than cocaine, right?
I've heard that.
It's real. And so lately I find myself eating some pastries. Girl, I'm like, where did that come from? So we leaving those on the altar, girl, because
Let's
I
leave the
am not
patients.
going to commit suicide. Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love that. I love chewicide.
Suicidal.
Chewicide. That's powerful.
Seriously.
No, literally. I know a guy. Cancer came back 5 times, and I talked about this diet, and he was like, I didn't even say give up anything. I asked him. I said, a lot of what we eat is killing us. He's like, I can't give up certain things. I'm like, I ain't even say give up nothing yet. But we have that mindset. We can't let it go
When you know it's going to take
when you know
years
it's
off your life and you choose to eat it anyway.
anyway. Oh
Right.
my God.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I decide to leave on the altar. I talked about it. I'm gonna leave alcohol. I leave it on the altar. I'm giving it up for a season. I'm not long, and it even sounds crazy that I say that I'm giving up for a season as opposed to just giving up. But it is a thing that we do have to contend with. I'm aligning here. It's a thing that we contend with. Like we can't think about if we've drank for so long, even if it's just wine. I say, Jesus turned water into wine. Listen, I ain't about to make no excuses. I'm leaving it on the altar, and we'll revisit another time. So until next time, life scalers, let's balance this thing out so that we can scale for real. Peace.
Great job.
Yay, us. I'm
Okay,
so
cool.
excited about it. Now I'm gonna have to get in here and get some work and do a little bit of editing, but not too much because I want to keep it